J.D. Vance appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast and accused women of celebrating their abortions. And then Vance said transgender kids are doing it to get into Ivy League schools. Rudy Giuliani has lost his New York apartment, and his sexual assault trial got underway this week. Plus, he made the most racist comment yesterday of his career. I'm going to play all that for you and more. This is the mop-up for November 1st, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please like this episode and share it. Election Day is only 72 hours away. Kyle Rittenhouse, who showed up to a Black Lives Matter protest with an assault weapon and then killed 2, injured 1, and was later acquitted, claiming self-defense, well, I guess he's gotten an endorsement deal with a local gun store. So paid influencer that he is, Kyle Rittenhouse got into the spirit of democracy by tweeting this yesterday. With the election right around the corner, there's no better time to stock up on ammo. Visit, and then there's a hyperlink. As we come down to the home stretch, Donald Trump finds himself looking back on his life and reminiscing about the people who shaped him.
You know, many years ago, I had a father who was a great guy.
Yeah, really great guy, that Fred Trump. The federal government sued him because he refused to rent to blacks. Woody Guthrie wrote a song about Fred Trump, talking about what a horrible, horrible human being is. Go ahead, Donald. And, of course, he was detained by the police when he marched with the KKK.
But, you know, he always used to tell me, never use the word Nazi and never use the word Hitler.
Yes, never use the word Nazi, never use the word Hitler, for the same reason my father said never take the Lord's name in vain. Those are sacred words.
Now we're called Nazis, and I'm called Hitler.
Donald's father, Fred Trump, would be so proud of you, Donald. He would. But sadly, Donald Trump is suffering from what psychologists call imposter syndrome.
I'm not Hitler. I'm not Hitler.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
Not Hitler.
Donald,
I'm not Hitler.
You keep
I'm
saying that,
Hitler.
and it becomes
I'm
a
not
self-fulfilling
Hitler.
prophecy.
I'm not Hitler.
That
I'm
is
not
stink
Hitler.
thing.
I'm not Hitler.
Yes, you are.
I'm not Hitler.
I believe in you.
Hitler.
You can do this.
I'm not Hitler. I'm not Hitler.
Yes, you are. Such low self-esteem. 8,000 people attended a Trump rally Wednesday in Albuquerque, New Mexico. According to Axios, New Mexico has America's highest percentage of Hispanics. And during his speech, Trump said, quote, "I love the Hispanics. They are warm, sometimes too warm." Axios says in his speech to win over Hispanics, Trump promised mass deportations while once again calling America an occupied nation. I mean, how can that not win over Hispanics? Trump also accused Kamala Harris of, quote, importing migrants from mental institutions and from the Congo. Could you get any more racist? Why does he keep mentioning the Congo? Campaigning in Rocky Mount, North Carolina on Wednesday, Donald Trump accused Joe Biden and Kamala Harris of hating Americans.
My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You just
It's true.
And you can't be president if you hate the American people. And there's a lot of hatred there.
Yeah, here is Donald Trump in Henderson, Nevada, reminding us how much he loves Americans by calling our country a trash can for the rest of the world.
Our country we're riddled with crime. Every city, you take a look at it, it's falling apart. They smell, they're dirty, they're criminal-ridden.
During his speech in New Mexico on Thursday, in a rare moment of candor, Donald Trump explained why nobody should vote for him.
But nothing is more dangerous than to give immense power to a weak and not very smart person.
During his speech, he said that you can't give power to a not very smart person. Interesting. Donald Trump is a racist. He genuinely believes in race science and that intelligence is inherited. Considering how stupid Don Jr. and Eric are, maybe intelligence or lack thereof is inherited. For decades, Trump has always talked about the importance of genes. This is how stupid rich people justify their luck. They tell themselves they won the genetic lottery instead of telling themselves the truth, and that truth is, my father left me $500 million and I lost all of it. Because Donald Trump is intellectually lazy, because he's stupid, like all white supremacists, he has to convince himself, I don't need to read books. I don't need to surround myself with people who are intelligent. I was born smart. Trump thinks intelligence is like a real estate portfolio. It's something your father can leave to you. Here is Donald Trump Wednesday campaigning in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, telling his supporters how smart he is, because that's what smart people do. They tell you they're smart instead of show you.
I had an uncle that was at MIT, a professor for 41 years, the longest serving professor ever. I have that, and something in my blood about that.
There's something in my blood about that. He's so smart. Then Trump reminded voters that not just anybody can be president.
The presidency is a job held by Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower, FDR, you can name them.
Because I can't.
This is a job that has to be held by somebody with a high level of intelligence.
Absolutely. And Donald Trump is not just intelligent, he's got the intellectual curiosity of a really stupid 6-year-old. Here he is at the height of the COVID crisis, calming a nation in need.
I ask Bill a question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
The right folks who could.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Hard to believe only 1 million people died because of him from COVID. Hard to believe. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is Dr. Deborah Birx, White House COVID response coordinator in the Trump administration. This is an actual photo of her while Trump is suggesting she look into injecting COVID patients with bleach. After Trump left office, Dr. Birx told ABC News, frankly, I don't know how to handle that episode. I don't know how to process it. I still think about it every day. You can see how extraordinarily uncomfortable I was. Did I show you that picture? Where am I? Where is it? Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Well, Howard Lutnick is in charge of the Trump transition team. Right now, he's vetting all the political appointees for the executive branch should Donald Trump become president again. Lutnick is going to be vetting the White House. Trump has already promised to put Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in charge of Health and Human Services, as well as the Department of Agriculture. And now it turns out the guy in charge of hiring White House staffers is an anti-vaxxer as well, just like Robert Kennedy Jr. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, Lutnick, the guy who's going to be doing all the hiring, is an anti-vaxxer. And we should trust him because he's a stockbroker. Lutnick, a stockbroker, went on CNN Wednesday night and spread the dangerous lie that there is a link between autism and vaccines.
Because in 1986, they waived product liability for vaccines. And here's the best one. They started paying the people at the NIH, right? They pay them a piece of the money for the vaccine companies. Wait a minute, let me finish. And so all of these vaccines came out without product liability. So what happened now? Autism is 1 in 34.
Okay,
amazing.
Neither of us are doctors. Vaccines are safe. RFK, I mean,
why do you think vaccines are safe? There's no product liability anymore. They're not proven.
Kids get them and they're fine.
Why do you think they're fine?
But because they're proven scientifically to be so.
How about this? There was 1 in 10,000 people with autism. We all know so many more people with autism than had it when we were young. Oh, come on.
Okay,
I mean, his point is really interesting.
But
so here's what he
vaccines
said.
don't cause autism, which is what RFK pushes, which is why people are concerned that he could get a job like HHS.
This is how you create a well-informed citizenry, CNN. Argue a fact. It's a fact that vaccines do not cause autism, but have a stockbroker come on and say it does, and then have your anchor argue a fact and allow him to spew nonsense that gets people killed. Good on you, CNN, for both siding it. Here is stockbroker Howard Lutnick. Stockbroker Howard Lutnick, the head of Trump's transition team. Here he is. Here is stockbroker Howard Lutnick speaking at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday, insisting that by getting rid of the income tax and replacing it with tariffs, we can return to the golden economic age of 1900, when 3 people controlled all the wealth, children worked in factories instead of going to school, and the federal government wasn't busy bothering us by protecting our food, drugs, water, air, and sanitation, and protecting us from cranks, snake oil salesmen like Howard Lutnick.
We all say, make America great again. But let's just go over for a minute what that means, because we all say it as a slogan. When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax.
These idiots.
And all we had was tariffs.
Right, tariffs that the American Enterprise Institute, the Cato Institute, all the right-wing, Koch-funded think tanks say it will create, the tariffs will create a $4 trillion sales tax on Americans. But, you know, he's got the voters convinced, no, China pays the tariffs. China pays the tariffs. J.D. Vance appeared on Joe Rogan's Anti-Vax podcast, where Rogan sings the praises of horse paste for curing COVID. Vance confessed that he got vaccinated for COVID, but he got vaccinated reluctantly.
I took the vax, and I haven't been boosted or anything, but
yeah, he hasn't been boosted. Watch this. The man who wants to be vice president tells an audience of 14 million easily duped American males not to get vaccinated for COVID. He's not saying it explicitly, he's saying it implicitly. This is precisely why Donald Trump is responsible for 1 million deaths from COVID.
The moment where I really started to get red-pilled on the whole vax thing was the sickest that I've been in the last 15 years by far was when I took the vaccine.
The sickest I was in the last 15 years is when I took the vaccine. Now, when the vaccine first came out, we were told it doesn't prevent COVID. It makes it so the virus doesn't kill you. So you got the shot, J.D. Vance. What happened?
And I've had COVID at this point 5 times.
So you've had COVID 5 times. Now that's a lot. But the vaccine doesn't prevent the disease as much as it prevents it from killing you. So 5 times, what were your 5 COVID experiences like?
And the worst COVID experience I had was like a sinus infection.
So the vaccine worked. Here is J.D. Vance ignoring the science in front of 14 million, 17 million easily duped incels who watch Joe Rogan. Here he is saying the vaccine made him feel like crap. Well, yeah, sometimes that's what happens. That's how the vaccine sometimes works. Sometimes it puts you out of commission for a day or two because COVID will kill you. And in order for your body to create the antigens, it has to be tricked into thinking it caught COVID, so your body might mimic some of the symptoms of COVID without actually having it. See, that's the genius of the vaccine. But here is J.D. Vance saying the vaccine made him sicker than when he caught COVID. Okay? Conveniently leaving out the most important part. That's the way it's supposed to work. You take the vaccine so it doesn't kill you. But here he is saying it's not worth the trade-off? This is a Yale Law School graduate making the argument that the vaccine that kept his COVID from becoming life-threatening wasn't worth it because he felt horrible for 2 days after he got the vaccine. There's no logic here. But this is what you would expect from a craven, opportunistic infection like J.D. Vance, who will gladly lie about Haitians eating cats and dogs, even though he knows that lie sparked hundreds of death threats directed at the Haitian community, as well as directed at the business owners, Republicans, who hired them. Vance later admitted he knew he was lying, but he said, I did this to draw attention to a larger point. And that larger point being, I don't want black people moving into Ohio. Here he is, once again, lying, this time about the vaccine, in order to make a larger point. And that point is, I want to be vice president no matter how many idiot Joe Rogan fans end up spreading COVID, polio, and rubella.
The sickest that I've been in the last 15 years by far was when I took the vaccine. And I've had COVID at this point 5 times. I was in bed for 2 days. My heart was racing. I was like, the fact that we're not even allowed to talk about that. Even,
You're not allowed.
No like serious injury. But even the fact that we're not even allowed to talk about the fact that I was as sick as I've ever been for 2 days. And the worst COVID experience I had was like a sinus infection. I'm not really willing to trade that.
The worst you had was a sinus infection because you were vaccinated. But just to make sure we know that J.D. Vance is a douchebag, a floating island of rancid rubbish, he said to Joe Rogan, I don't think it does get, I'm going to play you something Rudy Giuliani said. This is what J.D. Vance told Joe Rogan. Quote, if you are a, middle class or upper middle class white parent, and the only thing that you care about is whether your child goes into Harvard or Yale, like obviously that pathway has become a lot harder for a lot of upper middle class kids. But the one way that those people can participate in the DEI bureaucracy in this country is to be trans. That gets people killed. That causes suicide, and it gets people killed. Wow. Trump on Thursday announced he is suing 60 Minutes for $10 billion, accusing them of distorting the news, as well as election interference because he claims they edited their interview with Kamala Harris to make her look smarter than she actually is. Trump backed out of his 60 Minutes interview when he was told it wouldn't be live and they would fact check him. Yeah, he loves filibustering on live television. He doesn't like to be fact checked. That's why, go on Joe Rogan's show. Our supreme intellectual, Joe Rogan, who fact checks all the time. Campaigning in Henderson, Nevada on Thursday, Donald Trump said he's saving our democracy in a tiny little jar in a tiny little jar of formaldehyde for safekeeping.
This is, we call them a threat to democracy. They look at me, I'm a threat to democracy. I am the least threat. I'm the one saving our democracy.
This race is looking more and more like it's coming down to Pennsylvania. I say that because Kamala Harris is not campaigning in Florida. She has stuck inside the blue wall, that narrow alley, and she's visited Nevada, Arizona, and North Carolina. She made one trip to Texas last week. I don't know what her internal polling shows, but the fact that she is staying in the 7 battleground states suggests to me that she believes this race is tight. Trump and Harris have spent at least $538 million on television advertisements in Pennsylvania alone because it's starting to look like this is coming down to Pennsylvania. The Washington Post averages of A-plus polls shows Harris beating Trump in Pennsylvania by about a point, but in the past 7 days, Trump has chipped away at her lead, rising 0.9 of a percentage point, suggesting she's going to win, but it'll be close. Take a look at the polling averages. These are A-plus polling averages. You see that? She's never, since Biden dropped out, Harris has been leading in Pennsylvania. Never, ever has Trump taken the lead in the A-plus polling averages. Plus, you have Bob Casey, the marquee down-ballot candidate, the senator running for re-election, and he's been beating his opponent. There hasn't been one poll, not one A-plus poll, showing Bob Casey, the Democrat, losing. 1.5 million Pennsylvanians have voted early, with the number of Democrats outpacing Republicans 2-1. The Associated Press, which calls elections for all the major news organizations, says, except for 2016, Democrats have won Pennsylvania in every presidential election in the past 30 years. Politico reports that early voting in Pennsylvania has been disappointing for Donald Trump, with more Democratic than Republican senior citizens sending in their ballots. 4 years ago, older voters in Pennsylvania favored Trump. This race was always going to be decided by suburban women. Pennsylvania. Politico reports a 10-point gender gap, with way more women voting early in battleground states. And she has something like a 12 to 14 point advantage when it comes to female voters. Male voters are going for Trump, but we're seeing more women voting early in battleground states than men. That's good news. NBC News reports that nationwide, 58 million Americans have already voted, with 54% of them being female. Charlie Kirk runs Turning Points and recently said he would never get on an airplane with a black pilot. Yesterday, he appeared on a podcast hosted by former Fox, former NBC host Megyn Kelly, who insists Jesus and Santa are white and there's nothing wrong with blackface. Kirk, who is running Trump's Get Out the Vote operation in Arizona, said he is furious about the gender gap. He's furious that Kamala Harris is running a commercial starring Julia Roberts, who is encouraging women who are married to Donald Trump voters to defy their husbands. Vote for Harris, she's saying, but don't tell your husband. Probably because he's abusive. It's not safe to be married to these guys. All right. Kirk, who is running Trump's Get Out the Vote operation in Arizona, said he is furious that that Harris is encouraging women to secretly vote, and he says the Harris campaign is creating a new generation of disobedient wives.
And she needs people to basically lie to their husbands, which they are promoting, by the way, which I find that entire advertising campaign so repulsive. It is so disastrous. It is just like
I'll show it in a minute.
It is the embodiment of the downfall of the American family. I think it's so gross. I think it's so just nauseating, where this wife is wearing you'll show it, wearing the American hat. She's coming in with her sweet husband, who probably works his tail off to make sure that she can go, and have a nice life and provide for the family. And then she lies to him saying, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. And then she votes for Kamala Harris as her little secret in the voting booth. Kamala Harris and her team believe that there will be millions of women that undermine their husbands, and do so in a way that it's not detectable in the polling.
Unbelievable. What is wrong with these people? They not just want to outlaw abortion. They want to outlaw contraception and get rid of no-fault divorce. J.D. Vance is on record saying that sometimes women should stay in abusive marriages for the sake of the family. Former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, appeared on Fox News, also appalled by the Julia Roberts commercial. He's appalled that this commercial is encouraging women married to Republicans to vote for Harris, but tell your husband you voted for Trump. Newt believes marriage is the backbone of society. That's why he's been married 3 times, and he never lied to any of those wives, even though he cheated on the first 2. But, I'm sure he didn't lie, right? I'm sure he would say, honey, I'm going to be late for dinner because I'm cheating on you with Callista, and she's going to be my 3rd wife. He wouldn't lie. Here's Newt Gingrich.
For them to tell people to lie is just one further example of the depth of their corruption. I mean, how do you run a country where you're walking around saying wives should lie to their husbands, husbands should lie to their wives? I mean, what kind of a totally amoral, corrupt, sick system have the Democrats developed?
Is it as sick as your for-profit healthcare system that you keep supporting? This is a guy who married his geometry teacher and then served her divorce papers as she was dying from cancer. But let me hear some more lectures about morality from Newt Gingrich. Campaigning in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Donald Trump told women in the audience he was going to protect them whether they like it or not.
And my people told me about 4 weeks ago, I would say, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said... They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
Whether they like it or not. I believe that's called stalking. Donald Trump, the great protector of women. Yes, absolutely. Those signs behind him that read 47, that's the number of credible sexual assault allegations against him. You want to protect women, Donald? Go to prison. He kissed me on the lips and on the neck. He tried to lift my dress. He was grabbing and touching my body everywhere he could. Those are the words of 53-year-old Beatrice Kuehl, who told the Daily Mail on Thursday she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump. She was assaulted, she says, inside the Plaza Hotel back in 1993 after she competed in an Atlantic City beauty pageant hosted by Trump. Kuehl is more than 6 feet tall and said she was able to eventually push Trump off because of her size. Earlier in the year, a jury ordered Donald Trump to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million after they found he sexually assaulted and then defamed her. Twice, the judge in the case, I believe his name is Lewis Kaplan, twice, Judge Lewis Kaplan ruled that the jury found Trump, quote, guilty of rape in common law parlance. Therefore, he is what you call an adjudicated rapist. Donald Trump is an adjudicated rapist. This is video of Donald Trump watching the famous Access Hollywood tape. I'm going to play it because there was an article in the Washington Post about people who have never seen it. This goes all the way back to 2016, and we have a lot of younger voters. 8 years ago, you have people who are voting in this election who were 10 when the Access Hollywood video came out. When's the last time you've seen it? Well, I'm going to show it to you in a different light. But I got to warn you, if you have kids nearby, please move them out of the room. They should not hear this. Okay? This is video of Donald Trump watching the famous Access Hollywood tape. This is video of him 2 years ago being forced to watch the Access Hollywood tape. He was forced to watch it during a deposition before the E. Jean Carroll case went to trial. I got to warn you, your children should be out of earshot. This is very unpleasant. This is Donald Trump talking to Billy Bush, the grandson of George Herbert Walker Bush, the nephew of President George W. Bush. This is Donald Trump. And I got to warn you, it's graphic.
You know, and
she used to be very, she's still very beautiful.
I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
Huge news there.
No, Nancy.
Yeah.
No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch. But I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit in the purple.
Whoa!
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald is good! Oh, my man! Wait, you gotta look at me when you get out and be like,
sets this up.
That is very...
You give me the thumbs
Look
up.
at you. You are a
You gotta put the thumbs up. You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
else off first? Yeah, let me.
It's very
You
funny.
gotta give the thumbs up.
All right, you and I will walk down.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her. It's
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Okay, couple of things. He said you can do anything you want. You can grab them by the P word. You can do whatever you want if you're famous. That's what he said. It was Melania who later came up with the idea of calling it locker room talk. I don't know how many locker rooms Melania has been in, but I don't know any men who talk that way in the locker room. The thing you have to understand is sociopaths give you all the evidence. They put it right out in front of you. They want to get caught, and they always do. They want to get caught. Donald Trump has been confessing his entire life, and he's telling people what he does. From the time Donald Trump came down the escalator, he told you who he is and what he's going to do, Okay? Now, after Donald Trump watched the video, Trump was questioned after he watched the video by E. Jean Carroll's attorney, Roberta Kaplan. This is from 2 years ago. This is the deposition before the trial. He ended up losing the trial. A jury found him, civil jury found him guilty of rape and ordered him to pay E. Jean Carroll about $85 million for compensatory and punitive for raping, in common law parlance, E. Jean Carroll, and then defaming her. This is Roberta Kaplan talking to Donald Trump, who was president and wants to be president again.
Melania said this was okay.
That's you in that video, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And am I correct that that video was recorded in January, withdrawn? Am I correct that that video was recorded in September 2005?
I guess that would, I don't know the date, but whatever date it was is fine with me.
And am I correct that you were engaged to your current wife sometime in 2004?
I don't know.
Am I correct that you married your current wife in January 2005?
I don't know relative to that tape, no.
And the person you were speaking to, it's now famous, in that video was Billy Bush?
That's right.
Please
This is very old news, fully litigated during debates, during everything else, fully litigated.
Okay.
And you know what I said then, and I say it now? Locker room talk. That was locker room talk.
Okay.
That's what goes on.
And you did say in the video that you, quote, moved on her heavily, correct?
Excuse me?
You do say in the video that you, quote, moved on her heavily.
I did say that, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And you do say in the video that as part of trying to have sex with this woman, you took her furniture shopping, correct?
We actually did look for furniture, yes.
So that was true. You actually took this woman
I
dancing.
think so. It's been a long time ago. It's how long is that? Long time ago. But I think so. I do think so.
Is that the only occasion when you took a woman shopping?
I think so.
And you say, and again, this has become very famous in this video, I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, if you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
There you go. They always confess. He said, she asked in that tape, you say if you're famous, you can grab women by the P word. And he says, well, historically, that's been true. Famous people can get away with grabbing women by the P word. And she said, are you famous? And he said, yeah. As I said earlier, sociopaths always confess. He keeps confessing to the American people. We know who he is. He keeps confessing. He's an adjudicated rapist, and he's confessed it over and over and over. Mark Cuban under fire for going on The View yesterday and accusing Trump of surrounding himself with weak and unintelligent women. That is so unfair. I mean, look at Melania. Melania's here on a genius grant. Did you know that? Yeah, she got her citizenship on what is called an Einstein visa. Here she is brandishing a gun, wearing handcuffs in front of her then boyfriend's jet, Donald Trump. I mean, how many topless photos have I seen of Albert Einstein? She's a genius. He only surrounds himself with smart women like Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon's wife, who from WWE wrestling, He's being sued for sexual assault, and now she's being sued. Oh, by the way, he named her to be his administrator of the Small Business Administration. And along with Lutnick, she's running the transition team. She's vetting the White House with Lutnick, Linda McMahon. Headline from Business Insider: WWE co-founder Linda McMahon, who runs Trump's biggest super PAC, once hired a suspected child molester on the condition that, quote, he stop chasing after kids. He didn't. And now ring boys are now suing Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon because they were sexually assaulted by this guy. And Linda McMahon is being accused of turning a blind eye to the sexual assaults. She is going to be vetting the White House for Donald Trump, along with anti-vaxxer Mr. Lutnick, the stockbroker. Well, it's so unfair of Mark Cuban to say that Donald Trump surrounds himself with unintelligent women. I mean, there's Laura Loomer. She flew with Trump to the debate, and she was whispering into his ear about Haitians eating dogs and cats. She kept saying, bring that up, bring that up. And he mentioned it during the debate because he listens to strong, powerful women like Marjorie Taylor Greene. He loves Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trump appeared in Atlanta, Georgia, Tuesday, where he warned against cars that run on hydrogen. This is very smart. He only wants to stick with fossil fuels. So he's warning about hydrogen cars. On his way to making the point that hydrogen isn't safe, he weaved and began praising Marjorie Taylor Greene by fantasizing about her death.
Not recognizable if something goes wrong. If something goes wrong and Marjorie Taylor Greene with that beautiful blonde hair is driving down the highway in a hydrogen car, and the problem with a hydrogen car, if something goes wrong, it's like the atom bomb went off. You're not recognizable. But they say, we think we have it under control. That's not good enough. They'll say, we thought it was Marjorie Taylor Greene riding down the middle of the turnpike, but she's no longer recognizable. We found some of her. I won't say. We love her. Stand up, Marjorie, stand up.
He's like Charlie Parker. He's riffing and weaving. Brilliant man, brilliant mind. Yeah. Yesterday was Halloween at the White House, so Joe Biden bit a baby. He really did. Do we have a picture? There it is. Now, some people, this is an actual picture of seeing President. I love Joe Biden. This is Joe Biden seeing an adorable baby, and he just bit the baby. What does he care? He's not running. Hey, maybe QAnon is right, huh? He bit a baby. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I bet I'm just going to defend it, and I'll leave it at that. I'll keep my mouth shut. Republican pollster Frank Luntz, the Joseph Goebbels of the Republican Party, he wrote Newt Gingrich's contract with America. He twists language and words so they don't mean anything anymore. He really, the breakdown of truth in America started with this POS, Frank Luntz. He is Dr. Goebbels. It's Dr. Frank Luntz. And over the past 30 years, he's been training Republicans on how to say things they don't mean, how to make things sound anodyne. For example, it's not global warming, it's climate change. He came up with that. When George W. Bush wanted to turn over forests to housing developers, He called it the Clean Forests Initiative. If you want to trace the breakdown of language in America, where Donald Trump can just say whatever he wants, it starts with this homunculus in a toupee, the grotesquerie that is Frank Luntz, the Dr. Joseph Goebbels of the Republican Party. Well, he was asked on CNN, because Frank is always trying to sound reasonable. He was asked if President Biden referring to the crowd at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally as garbage is going to hurt Kamala Harris. You might remember Tony Hinchcliffe did the joke about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage, and Joe Biden said the only floating island of garbage I see is those supporters, which I thought was a good line. But he says, Frank Luntz says, this is going to end up hurting the Harris campaign. Here is Dr. Frank Luntz, the Dr. Joseph Goebbels of the Republican Party, on CNN answering the question if Biden's remark is going to hurt Harris. And he does this, watch this, he does it while burping up his acid reflux of satanic bile. He's able to do two things at once. Watch as he answers the question and then burps up his acid reflux of satanic sulfuric bile.
President Biden made his comments seemingly describing Trump supporters as, quote, garbage. The Harris campaign is trying to downplay the effect of those comments. Of course they are. But I wonder if you think that those comments are going to move voters.
It's going to be huge, because this is not some comedian saying something stupid and offensive at a rally where he should have been basically disinvited. This is the President of the United States endorsing his vice president saying something, and I know that there's different interpretations about what he said. It's still inappropriate. He still should be doing it.
Yeah. Then Luntz warned that the comments made by Joe Biden, who is not a candidate, will be a turning point in this election, and that the human garbage, still undecided on who to vote for, will choose Trump over Harris. Because why? Because what's more important than democracy and reproductive freedom? Not wanting to be called garbage by someone who isn't on the ballot.
In 2024, I can promise you that this is going to drive Trump turnout. He's doing it already. I can see, I'm sure there's going to be ads on as soon as tonight about this. This may be a turning point for those final 3%, and that's all it is, who still need to be persuaded. Now,
yeah. He promises us, I know, Frank, 20 years ago, 2004, he said, I sat in a meeting, a phone meeting with him, and he said, John Kerry is going to be the next president. That's what he guaranteed it early election day in 2004. And he said because George W. Bush froze up during the debate. There was like 20 seconds where George W. Bush just stared vacantly into the camera at his debate with John Kerry. And Frank Luntz said, John Kerry is going to be the next president because the commander-in-chief of the United States cannot freeze up on camera for 20 seconds. So we should always listen to Frank Luntz, the Dr. Joseph Goebbels of the Republican Party. You are not garbage. I love you. You are the best our nation has to offer. That's Donald Trump's response to Joe Biden making a joke. You are the best our nation has to offer. Former Green Bay Packer Brett Favre has admitted to stealing $1.1 million from Mississippi's Department of Welfare when he contrived to get paid for 2 speeches he never gave. So far, he's returned some of the money which came from a federal block grant earmarked for needy families in Mississippi, because he is the best our nation has to offer. Favre is also being sued for conspiring to divert an additional $2 million in federal block grants earmarked for families in need in Mississippi so that it could be used to build a stadium for his daughter's college volleyball team. Well, I guess the Favres were a family in need. They needed a volleyball stadium. Here is Brett Favre opening for Donald Trump in Green Bay, Wisconsin, reminding everyone in the audience that they are the best America has to offer.
I can assure you we're not garbage.
Yeah? Stealing millions of dollars from poor people in Mississippi? Yeah, there's a different word than garbage to describe that, Brett Favre, but I'm not going to say it. The best America has to offer. This week, the Fulton County Sheriff who took Donald Trump's mugshot told the BBC that afterwards, quote, "I feared for my life. The death threats, the death threats, the death threats. Quote, I received some interesting feedback, had my life threatened, had my family's life threatened for taking the ex-president's mugshot." Donald Trump is the best the country has to offer. His supporters are not garbage. Anybody who goes up against Donald Trump is doxxed, death threats. This is the best our country has to offer. And not just our country, the world. Viktor Orban, the crypto-fascist dictator of Hungary, tweeted, "Just got off the phone with President Trump. I wished him the best of luck for next Tuesday. Only 5 days to go. Fingers crossed." Yeah, great man, Viktor Orban. Great friend of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson loves Viktor Orban. Well, Tucker Carlson told John Hears, he's the host of Christianities, it's a show on YouTube. Tucker Carlson said that he was mauled in the middle of the night by a demon. Now, I'm going to talk about this. The video was released Halloween night with Carlson reenacting parts of the story. This may be a joke. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a goof. Tomorrow he's going to say, I can't believe you fell for it. But if he's not saying it's a goof, I suspect this is a prank he's playing on us. But Tucker Carlson said the attack occurred a year ago. The demon attack occurred a year and a half ago, right around the time he was getting fired by Fox News, right? He said the demon came to him while he was sleeping next to his wife and clawed at him repeatedly until he bled. I suspect by the time most of you hear this, Tucker Carlson is going to be joking with Elon Musk, saying, I can't believe the liberals believed it. I don't believe it. But let's see. Buzz Aldrin endorsed Donald Trump because Buzz has a special affinity for men who come in second. Buzz Aldrin, he's my hero, okay? He stepped off the LEM 20 minutes after Neil Armstrong did. And Buzz Aldrin is a hero. He really is. He was probably the smartest astronaut. He invented walking in space. They didn't know how to walk. They didn't know how to do a spacewalk until Buzz Aldrin figured it out. And but not liked. He was an a-hole. And his father lobbied for him to be the first man instead of Neil Armstrong. And what they say is that Buzz Aldrin had a character problem. That one of the chief reasons Neil Armstrong was picked to go first instead of Buzz Aldrin is because Buzz Aldrin wasn't a good representation of America and NASA, and that Neil Armstrong was. Neil Armstrong was as perfect a hero as you can find. Buzz Aldrin, problematic. I remember taking my son to an autograph show, and Buzz wanted $750 for an autograph. And then I was at a party, like a year later. He got paid by HBO. Like HBO pays celebrities to come to parties. And so I saw him, and I walked up to him. I said, "Are you Buzz Aldrin?" He says, "Yes, I am." I said, "I want to shake your hand." And I said, "I just saved $750. And he went, yeah. But he is a hero. But he's he's in his 90s. All right. Now for the fun part. Buzz Aldrin is still he gets a pass for voting for Trump. All right. Rudy Giuliani said the Haitians don't belong in America because they're just not a good fit. He said this yesterday while appearing on a Christian conservative live stream defending Donald Trump's attacks on Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. Listen to this.
They lived back 200 years ago. They just shouldn't have been taken out of the jungle and placed in the middle of a small town America. That's ridiculous. Or big town America, for that matter.
I got to play that again for New Yorkers because he is the most racist mayor New York City ever had. The police used to say it's Giuliani time whenever they arrested a black person and took them in the back and did God knows what. He made it illegal for black people to leave their homes when he was mayor of New York City. Stop and frisk. Stop and frisk. If you were a young black person, you were a suspect. And you were probably going to spend some time in Rikers Island. He is a racist.
They lived back 200 years ago. They just shouldn't have been taken out of the jungle and placed in the middle of a small town America. That's ridiculous. Or big town America, for that matter.
That's what he's saying about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield. I got to play that again. This is what he's saying about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio.
They lived back 200 years ago. They just shouldn't have been taken out of the jungle and placed in the middle of a small town America. That's ridiculous. Or big town America, for that matter.
All his worldly possessions, Last week, a judge ordered Rudy to turn over all his worldly possessions to the mother and daughter Georgia election workers who won a $150 million judgment against Rudy Giuliani after he repeatedly accused them of stuffing ballots for Joe Biden in 2020. The two women are black, which Rudy seized upon and accused them of passing around a hard drive containing Biden votes like they were vials of crack or heroin. Trump referred to the two women as hustlers. When the death threats grew so ominous, the FBI stepped in and told these two women they had to go into hiding. They sued, and now Rudy is turning over everything he has left to them. The latest is yesterday, on Thursday, a moving company pulled up outside his Manhattan apartment. It's about a $3 to $5 million apartment, and they're prepared to transfer all his worldly belongings. Lawyers for the mother and daughter were allowed into Rudy Giuliani's apartment. He's got to give up the apartment, plus the furniture, his jewelry, his World Series memorabilia. He's got a Joe DiMaggio jersey and a 1980 Mercedes that belonged to Lauren Bacall. They are coming for everything he has. The Florida apartment, I believe, has gone into escrow. A judge is deciding how soon that has to be turned over. He's bankrupt. He just lost his two, that's a picture of the apartment. He just lost his, he was stripped of his law license in Washington, D.C. And here in New York, he can't practice law. He's 80 years old. He's got no money. Can't pay his lawyers. Meanwhile, oral arguments began on Wednesday in the civil suit brought by Noel Dunphy, a former Giuliani employee who is suing Rudy for wage theft and rape. Rudy was warned Wednesday by the judge to behave, but Rudy couldn't behave. He began screaming, "This case should be dismissed. It's an injustice. I'm like the January Sixers being held without due process." Giuliani trashed. It's not funny. He accused her of suing other men for similar accusations. The judge ended up muting Giuliani's microphone. The judge asked Rudy, "Do you have a lawyer?" And Rudy, who owes millions in unpaid legal bills and accounting bills, said, "I'm not sure. I'm confused. Maybe I have one. I'm not sure." And then Rudy buried his head in his hands as the hearings continued, and they talked about his alcoholism. Are you going to feel sorry for Rudy? Or do you want justice? I want justice. This is what justice looks like. Dan Osborne is running neck and neck with Republican incumbent Senator Deb Fischer in Nebraska. He assured voters in Nebraska he will not be caucusing with Democrats. He's an independent. He said, "I will not caucus with the Democratic Party if you elect me." Wired magazine has some interesting articles about Donald Trump's failed ground game. Headline, "Donald Trump's ground game in Michigan is mostly glitchy apps and vibes." This is what Elon Musk has put together. You should go over to Wired and read this article. Quote, "It's what happens when you let a bunch of grifters take over," a Trump World source said. Headline from Wired magazine, "Workers say they were tricked and threatened as part of Elon Musk's Get Out the Vote effort." I'm going to read this to you. They were put in U-Haul vans without any seat belts, and one of the not volunteers, they're paid. This is according to Wired magazine. "I was in shock and disbelief," says a paid knocker down in Michigan to help turn out the vote for former President Donald Trump on behalf of Elon Musk's America PAC. In Michigan, canvassers and paid door knockers for the former president, contracted by a firm associated with America PAC, have been subjected to poor working conditions. A number of them have been driven around in the back of a seatless U-Haul van, according to video obtained by Wired, and they were threatened that their lodging at a local motel wouldn't be paid for if they didn't meet canvassing quotas. One door knocker alleges that they didn't even know they were signing up for anything having to do with Musk or Donald Trump. It's a grift. And there are accusations that Donald Trump is being grifted by his campaign staff. that they're funneling money to other LLCs that he doesn't know about. They're the best this country has to offer. Everyone who works for Trump, everyone who votes for Trump, you are the best our country has to offer. Well, you can't say we weren't warned. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. This has been the mop-up for November 1st, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please like this episode and share it. I think that video of the deposition, everybody should see that. So please share this and subscribe to my newsletter, subscribe to this channel, and thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room. If you know anybody who's thinking of not voting, even if they're in a safe blue state, make sure they vote. Make sure everybody votes, please. She's going to win, but these are not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. He's not going to accept it. He's already claiming it's rigged. The most despicable human being ever. The greatest con artist ever in the history, or at least in the 20th and 21st century. He didn't go through the filtration process. He was never a mayor, a senator, a city council person. He just thrust himself into the Oval Office, and this won't happen again. Even if it's J.D. Vance, this won't happen again. I subscribe to the great man theory. Only Donald Trump could do this. Tom Cotton, Ron DeSantis, they're dangerous and they're fascistic, but they couldn't. Eventually you stop and you say, eventually if you're a human being, you go, all right, I've been this and that, and I'm going to stop. He's not human. He's not human. Please visit shopdavidfeldman.com and check out stuff there, like my worst case scenario. She's going to win. She's going to win the blue wall. And North Carolina, she's going to win North Carolina. And Halloween is over, but you might want to pick up the 2029 inaugural ball souvenir mug. That's Donald Trump and Melania getting ready for their 2029 inaugural ball. And Donald Trump is a predator. I like that. He is a predator. Thanksgiving's going to be tough for your MAGA moron family member, so make peace. Pick up a MAGA hat, and because they can't read, they won't notice that it says low IQ individual on the back. This is my favorite. It's Donald Trump in Edvard Munch's The Scream. It's a beautiful coffee mug. And if you want to insult me, join the mob, the floating island of garbage that listens to this show. This is my bestseller. It's a chef's apron with the words, I hope you're in the mood for diarrhea. That's what everybody buys. I know how Donald Trump feels. I know. I see who my supporters are. This is what they buy. I ask them to buy the smart stuff, and they buy, I hope you're in the mood for diarrhea. It's going to be okay. Seriously. She's going to win Michigan. She's going to win Wisconsin and Pennsylvania that gets to 270. She's going to win North Carolina. And, you know, we're going to find out how horrible we are. We're going to find out how horrible we are, but we're not that bad. She's going to win. It should be a tectonic, plate-shifting electoral map on Tuesday. It should be. The worst of the worst. They are the worst of the worst. But don't say that, because people won't vote for her if you say that. Get out of here. Thank you. I'll see you early Sunday morning at Tooth Hurdy. Be nice to yourself and do something nice for somebody else. You'll feel better if you do something nice for somebody else. It's going to be okay, but it should have never gotten to this point. We should not ever have been at this point. Why did it get this way? That's what we have to, after she gets elected, we have to ask, how did it get this way? And my listeners know the answer.